Hello everybody, welcome to this playthrough for Master Division in the Clifftop Links tournament. Video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so let's go. Here we're gonna start with hole number 1, and here we are actually going to try to get over. There is two things here that I need to mention, and I'm gonna take that in the end. That is crucial things. First, we are going to play with max topspin, and then with with 2 bars of side spin to the left. Reason we do want to go with the side spin to the left is to counteract the curl that we're going to use. Instead of trying to use some like in-between type of curl, we do want to go with max curl to the right every single time and then counteract with side spin to the left to get the ball to bounce nicely over to the fairway. So, we play with a power 3 ball here, which was a kingmaker. You can play with a centurion if you want to, and do not forget to add 20% to your adjustment. But here we come to the crucial things. If you do play with a power 3 ball, I would say that an Apocalypse level 6 is a bare minimum. I would say it's almost like minimum to have Apocalypse level 7 topspin. Otherwise, I would suggest that you play with some sort of power 4 ball or power 5 ball to get over directly. You will get over even with a lower club that you will bounce into the rough and roll out most likely, but you do want to bounce directly over without getting any interaction with the rough whatsoever. So have that in mind, that if you have a lower level clubs, unfortunately you will have to play with a power 4 ball, and if you don't have a power 4 ball, you're gonna have to just go for it and hope that you get to a decent spot. Now, when we're going to take our shot, you're going to see that we are going to be in maximum distance with our wedge, or we're going to be in minimum distance with our short iron. And here I choose to play with a wedge, as we are going to be in between clubs otherwise. And the adjustment that I'm making is the following. If I am on the second green square on the green, here with my adjustment for the Endbringer level 7, I play the shot 1-2-1. So 10.9 rings for a 10.9 wind. That's with the Endbringer, and I do feel that you will of course have to change that a little bit if you play with a rapier or some other club. If you play with a short iron, then that is even easier in my opinion, and then you're going to play that shot with 4 bars backspin, or you go for the dunk. The elevation adjustment for the short iron, I would say, is minus 20%. You need to subtract 20% to your adjustment. Hole number 2, I'm going to show you 2 approaches, one with a kingmaker and one with a wind 5 ball, to give you 2 different approaches. The problem with the kingmaker here is that we're going to be in between clubs using the quarterback. I like the amount of backspin the quarterback gets, and the thing that I'm doing is that I drag it back to minimum distance, then I play with underpower. You can see that I play with 1/3 of the ball in underpower, and then going with the ball just slightly outside the adjustment ring to the right. And the reason I want to go with underpower is, of course, because otherwise we're gonna come in very hot. And this time we get the ball in the hole, which is very nicely, but it's going to be a tough one when it comes to a power 3 ball. So here I'm not really focusing on any elevation, pulling it back to minimum, and then do the 1/3 of the ball in underpower, and then go with a little bit of curl. Wind 5 ball. Here I'm actually going to play this shot for being maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment. It's because we do want to hit a spot that is longer in front than the aiming point. You can see half of the yellow ring outside the bunker and in max distance with the rocket. All about 1 bar backspin with 3 bars of side spin to the right. And then I do play maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment. You can see we are bouncing on a spot much higher in front, and the only thing that we need to change there a little bit is the curl. We do need a little bit more curl than we had, then we would be coming in very nicely. Good shot, and it's possible to make with a wind 5 ball. I would say power 1, wind 5 would be perfect. We just need a little bit more curl, then we should be having that one in our bag. I do think though, when we look at the wind, that if you do have wind below 8, we do need to go with a little bit more curl. I think that curl would be good if the wind would be like somewhere around 7.5 instead, because that makes a difference. Not that big of a difference, but it makes a difference. It's a very tough par 3, and I know I say 30% extra, so for those of you that are listening to what I'm saying, You are correct. I normally say 30% extra, but once again, we are looking for the first bounce to be further in front than what we are aiming for. Because if we would be playing at 30%, we would be dropping down directly into the bunker. But now, as for using the rocket in max distance, we don't have more distance to push up. So therefore, we need to find a spot and then work ourselves with a different elevation. Hole number 3, here you will also see two types of approaches. One with Kingmaker, one with a power 4 ball. A power 4 ball is absolutely preferred here, as it's going to make the shot to the green much easier. With a power 3 ball, half of the 4th ring into the rough to the left with in max distance. You can see I'm playing this one 10.4 rings. Once I'm done with the adjustment, I push my target down, push my target up into maximum distance, and then go with some overpower. The overpower is going to be around 25 to 30%. And the thing that I do want to achieve is, of course, the ball to roll over this little hump here that we come to here. But now it stops short, and now we're going to have a little bit of a tougher time to reach for the green in 2. The spin adjustment. All about 1 bar topspin with an Apocalypse. I would say it's going to be the same as you're having an Apocalypse level 6, so 7 bars of topspin. If you have a club that gives you less topspin, then you need to go with more overpower. So less topspin, you compensate with more overpower. And the reason I'm not using max topspin with an Apocalypse level 7, it's because I do want to have at least a 4 bars of side spin to the left, so I can kick my ball into the left, and also great proof it if I do hit great to the right. It's a very, I can say it's a very tough hole, this one, and the hardest part is not the drive, even though the drive is very tough in itself. So our opponent bounced there as well, coming in up here, sit. That's so unlucky to get that ball into the rough there. So our turn, and now I'm choosing the club that is called the Guardian. The reason I choose the Guardian is because of its backspin and to give myself more margin once adjusting for the green. I'm not aiming for the pin here. I'm just going to get the ball to green or to the fringe or to the fairway by the green and then be happy. Once getting down there into the water, we do have to go with a lot of overpower. Amelia. So in the end here, we're going to go with almost max overpower once dropping down there into the water to compensate for the lower elevation. So hole number 3 still, and we're going to go with a power 4 ball with the same type of adjustment, like the same type of thing that we did with a Kingmaker. The only difference is that we do have 8 more yards to play with. So we are adjusting for a 1-to-1, which is 10.8, and once we're done, we're going to push it up to max distance. The only difference here that we're making is that we're not using any overpower. So no overpower for the drive, and this is going to be more perfect when it comes to the distance. We bounce very nicely on the fairway, and it bounces and it rolls up the hill there, and it lies perfectly for an approach shot towards the pin. Here the problem lies in that we are going to, not the problem, but here we can actually go for the pin. It's going to be tough, but we're going to definitely go for the pin. In the end, if you do make an eagle on this hole, you should be very satisfied with that, because we will have a lot of players making a birdie on hole number 3. So elevation adjustment, 20% extra for the drive, minus 10% for the approach. So it's an uphill 10% adjustment when approaching the pin. Our opponent here would most likely go into the rough here, if I'm not mistaken. Looked way left. Yeah, he did. And rolls out on the fairway, but if you do get so short as our opponent here, the ball is going to not be able to reach for the green in 2. So the approach now, and now you can see that we can reach further than we could with a Kingmaker, obviously. And then we can use, then we can still stretch it out and try to visualize a spot where we do want the ball to bounce. And then we're going to adjust from that distance. And we are going to adjust down here on the cliff, which means that we're still going to lose a little bit of distance, but not as much as I'm looking at here. I'm going into max distance here, which is not good. I'm using a little bit of curl because I want to get the ball behind the pin and fall back down, but I do make a mistake here and I do come in too hot and go into the rough. This is a very easy rough iron though, so if you just aim for the pin and go for the dunk, the rough iron there shouldn't be a problem for you to get into the hole. But make sure that when you get down there to the cliff that you're not pushing up that much that I did. We go to hole number 4, and here I'm going to show you an approach with a kingmaker that is purely going to be a birdie approach, and that is because I do want to have an approach with a kingmaker. I'm going with max distance with a 15% over adjustment with the guardian, max backspin, and I do want my ball to bounce on the fringe was the plan, to bounce and then fall back towards the pin. Safe and easy birdie though, but in the end you maybe wonder why don't I change to the Goliath and play before the bunker. It's due to the fact that we are going to due to the fact that we're going to be in between clubs, and that's a bummer because, you know, otherwise that is going to be otherwise that is going to be a very good type of approach when we go towards the pin. I tried that one with a kingmaker, and if you do have a win that is 10 point something, then it's going to be okay. You're not going to have to be, then you're not in between clubs. But if you do have more than 11.5, then you're going to have to overpower your long irons. Therefore I stay away of using that one in my guide and see it in myself with, if you're not having a special ball then and you only have kingmaker, then aim for the green, take your birdie, as you're most likely otherwise going to end up into the sand or into the rough with your adjustment. So now we're going to play with a wind 5 power wind 5 side spin 3 power 0 ball. I'm looking for the ball to just, you can see the ball guidelines soon, just that little twinkle or whatever we can call it that falls down to the left will be our spot. I'm going to adjust this one maximum distance plus 10%. Even though we are minimum distance, maximum distance plus 10% is just a different way for us to get to the same type of end result as we would be using a different elevation and minimum numbers. We bounce very nicely here and we come in and we go a little bit short. So the only thing that I'm going to do is to take off just a tiny bit of backspin and use 1 bar of side spin and to the right, and then do the exact same way. So once again, kingmaker only, play on the green, take it if you're not feeling very comfortable that you will bounce your ball up. Because the problem, once again, with bouncing our ball up when we do have this massive headwind with kingmaker and playing with a long iron further away from distance, is that we do either have to use a decent amount of backspin, then we risk the bunker big time, or we're gonna risk going too far and gonna have an overpowered putt. So it was a very hard one to actually try to find something for a kingmaker approach. If you do have any form of special ball, use that one instead. Reduce the wind a little bit so you're not being in between clubs with the Goliath, or you using the approach that I then showed with the sniper. Hole number 5, and here I do want us to play with 7 bars of topspin. That's the plan at least, but if you do have less topspin, then you're going to play with the topspin that you're having. You can see I'm using the blue ring by the top left of the rough there, and then I'm using as much side spin to the left possible, and I'm adjusting 1-1 minus 1.2, which is a 10% over adjustment for the Apocalypse level 7. So a 10% over adjustment is the trick, and then we're going max curl to the left with Apocalypse. So the Apocalypse is a key club here for hole number 5. Even though you have the Apocalypse in lower level, you will not have a problem there. You can of course use a power 4 ball if you want to, and then you're going to still be fine. I would like to make one minor tweak with the drive here. That is to start at +8 instead of +11. +8 is going to give us a more great proofed adjustment, and it's going to be a little bit easier to handle in my opinion. Once getting over there, we are going to look for a way when it comes to approaching the pin, obviously, and that's going to be something that is a possibility to drop. I have yet to succeed for that myself, but definitely a way for people to dial that shot in. This seems to be a very little curl, but a very much good to the left is going to help him stay on the fairway here. So, now when we play the approach, I'm going to play with a sniper. I'd rather take that than playing with an Apocalypse with less ball guideline, or a Guardian with less ball guideline, or something like that. And then I'm going to use topspin instead. This is going to be a hard thing to get to the same type of distance all the time with your driver, so you can use the same type of setup. So you will have to be innovative and really try to get the ball. What can I say? Really try to get the ball guideline to be in the way that you like it. So here I'm using 5 or 6 bars topspin, aiming for the pin. We do have a little bit of headwind, so we do want to make sure that the ball guideline is at least showing that it goes towards the pin. Coming away to the left here, so we do over adjust as we weren't really in maximum distance, but something to tweak. And the elevation adjustment for the second shot is nothing, so we're not going to add or subtract anything. Hole number 6, and here I would suggest you to play with a club with a ball that gives you as much side spin as possible, combined with 4 bars topspin. If you do have Centurions, I think the Centurion would be perfect here. Otherwise, you play with a Kingmaker. I'm going to just go straight forward here, playing with a 10% over adjustment, and part that I want to get to is to get to this shadow a little bit further. You can see we are in between now, but we do want to get to around 65 to 370 yard mark, somewhere around that, and I know we're going to have a very good chance to get the ball in the hole. So now we get up there. We're still going to go for the pin here, obviously, and we're going to have a good chance. Our opponent is going to make a good try here, if I'm not mistaken. Or I would say like this: I've seen several players trying to go with a max curl shot, trying to bounce either through the tree section or over the rough completely, leaving themselves up with a rough iron or with a sand wedge or with a short wedge towards the pin. That's something that you definitely can go with if you want to. I'm not against that. It's just that I feel very dialed in, laying up there from distance to the right. And I think this is in the end going to be a hole where we're going to see some people making eagle, when you can dial it in with yardage notes and references. And I think some people are going to struggle big time to get the consistency here. I'm aiming straight at the pin from the 361 yard mark, and we are bouncing on the fairway, 1 bar backspin, and then we're going to play it medium distance with nothing extra. So you can see here, adjusting for 4.5 rings. And we're going to take our shot and hit the ball perfect, and it's gonna go in the hole. A little bit too much to the left though, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, a little bit too much to the left, but it gets into the hole. We do want to hit the pin to be absolutely 100%, but a drop is a drop. We'll take that. Hole and number 7 now, the last par 3, and here we're going to play with an Apocalypse level 6 or level 7, or a Thor Sama level 5, 6 or 7. The quarterback or the rocket won't be having enough distance, and then you have to play before the rough and the bunker. But I like to play on this spot here, as I feel it's easier for us, and it will secure the birdie in a better way than it would be if we bounce before the rough and the sand. I'm playing this one medium distance with a 25% over adjustment, 5 bars backspin and 6 bars side spin to the left. And then I'm going to go with around 75% of the ball in curl outside the adjustment ring to the left. And the thing that I do want is the ball to come in here, and I want the ball to roll down towards the pin and make ourselves a hole-in-one. This is not a hole where I expect a bunch of hole-in-ones, but I definitely see it being there if we do have the day. If you do not want to play with the adjustment that I suggested, there is a way, as our opponent basically plays in a good way, except for under adjusting his shot, is to play with a wind 5 ball, playing before the rough and the sand, using as much side spin to the left possible, and also 1 or 2 bars backspin, trying to get the ball to bounce towards the pin. But I want to show you the kingmaker approach, as I feel that is still going to be a way to get in the hole. The reason I feel bouncing before the rough and the sand here is not going to give me more consistency is something that I based on playing on tour 12 a lot. It's like playing here before is going to give us so many inconsistent results depending on how the ball is going to bounce, because it's bumpy all the way in front to the green, and then we don't know how far and how much is going to roll while getting there. Hole number 8, last par 4 in the tournament. We're going to use a method here when we're going to play with a power slice first and foremost. And we're going to go with max overpower, max topspin, and then with as much side spin to the right possible. If you do have less topspin than an Apocalypse level 7, obviously use maximum there as well, and then go with a little bit more side spin. Here in this case, we got it down to 445 yards, which is a nice drive. And the trick and the hard part for us with this type of shot that we're going to make from shorter range here is that depending on how far we go, the elevation adjustment is going to change, and it's going to make us having a tough time to dial it in, even though it's going to be possible. But one thing that I want to say for the drive there, because it went so quick, it's like you're going to use the white ring to the left as reference with your Apocalypse. If you do have a 10 mile per hour wind, you have the white ring just by the rough line to the left. If you have 11 miles per hour, you do have one ring of difference. And then you have 2 rings of difference if you do have a 12 mile per hour wind. Then of course tweak it just a minor bit when it comes to if you do have some in-between wind or something like that. Here I rather play with a short iron and in minimum distance than I would be playing with a wedge in maximum distance. I do under adjust this shot as I misread how much is going to be pushed by the wind here. We do have a straight crosswind, and a straight crosswind is always the hardest one to make. I'm playing this one with a minimum distance and with a 10% over adjustment only. And you can see that I'm going to come in way under adjusted and gonna miss the pin actually big time in my opinion. It's basically, what is it, like around 1 ring in terms of difference. So in the end we do have hole number 9, and here we're going to play with a 20% over adjustment as a start. I'm going to use as much side spin to the left possible, combined with 4 bars of topspin. Here I'm just trying to see if there is a way for us to bounce in between the bunkers or something like that, but I'm not gonna risk that. We're gonna go to the left. Use the white ring as a marker here once again to the rough line to the left. I would like you to have a little bit more, maybe like 1 ring of difference, so you do just grade proof it a little bit better. Once you are done with your adjustment, you're going to push it up 4 yards. And that is going to be like if you adjust your target from maximum distance and you stay at plus 8 yards, when you're done, then you push it up to plus 12 and then take your shot. That is to get a little bit more distance once we're done, but the direction we compensate for by adjusting the initial adjustment. Max curl with the Apocalypse if you do have a wind that is above 11 miles per hour. If you do have a wind that is less than that, let's say you play with a Centurion or you play with another type of wind resistant ball but still power 3 ball, then you will have to reduce a little bit of curl, reduce half a ball to a ball, so you're not over curling it and going into the rough or into the sand out there to the left. Once getting over there, we do actually have a good chance for an albatross in my opinion, and that is something that we do need to tweak a little bit, but I think I do have my plans on how to get there, and all of those tweaks is of course going to be in the updated text guide. So for those of you that are looking for more detailed adjustments for the Clifftop Links tournament, should sign up for the updated text guides on Patreon, link in the video description down below. So now we're going to take our shot and we're going to go with a long iron, and it's going to be a medium distance adjustment plus 10%. But the thing is here though is that we cannot use too much side spin. I'm using 3 bars and half a bar of backspin, which is going to give us a decent amount of pace when it comes into the pin. I'm kind of aiming for the ball to be just outside the cup to the left, but that is something that we do need to change, as the ball is not going to be, or let's say like this, we are not going to get the ball in the hole. We're going to miss to the right side here. But now I hit it massively great left. And that's going to come in a different way, and we missed there to the left. But I played this shot many times, hitting the ball perfect, and I missed to the right. So need to compensate that one a little bit, because we're not going to adjust for a great shot. We're going to adjust for a perfect shot. So this was a playthrough for Master, a little bit longer version, but trying to cover everything when it comes to playing with a wind resistant ball, but also with a Kingmaker. Hope you enjoyed it, and I do believe we're going to see some not that low scores in Master. I do think you're going to be able to win this tournament if you manage to make like a 28, 29 or something like that in the weekend round. That at least I hope. So in the end, if you do have any questions or you're curious about a different adjustment or something like that, make a comment in the comment section below and I will be there to help you out. Also sign up on Patreon, link in the video description down below for the updated text guides, or also maybe personalized text guide for Tour 12 or any other tour in the game. Video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Take your time, hit thumbs up before you go. Thank you so much and good luck in the tournament.